Welcome to the Power Within podcast. The Power Within podcast is going to be a weekly podcast where I bring on different hypnotists and hypnotherapists from all over Ireland and further afield to share their wonderful knowledge and the power of hypnotherapy and all the good things that it can do, and in all the different ways we can help. My name is Trevor Evers. I'm your host, and this week I have a wonderful guest, John Scanlon. And John is a hypnotist. He runs Empower Hypnotherapy in Wexford. He trained in Ireland and abroad. He specializes in anxiety-related issues. And he is also, as most of you that are going to be watching this podcast know, the creator of the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference. It was the first ever Irish Hypnotherapy Conference, and it was held in Arklow, County Wicklow, just last May this year. And having attended the event myself, I can vouch that it was an absolutely fantastic event, brilliant event, and really inspiring, really inspired me. And I know it inspired so many others to get the best out of, to get the best out of myself and to get the best out of yourself. So welcome, John. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Great stuff. So, John, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself? I know I just covered a brief bio there. Anything more you would like to add to that?
Well, once upon a time, I used to be an accountant. So, yeah, I moved very much from my left brain to my right brain now. But this is what I want to do. This is what I love. And I am just fascinated by the power of hypnotherapy. As your podcast has just said, the power within. Each and every person has that power inside them. And I think what we do as hypnotherapists is we just help them to access their own inner power, which has been affected by events that have happened to them, by the way society views some of those events, and by the constant messaging that comes from society, which isn't always supportive.
Yeah. Great stuff. And I know, as I mentioned, your specialty area is in like anxiety and related issues. Would you like to elaborate on the different services that you provide and what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do weight loss and I'll do smoking if people ask me to do them, but I never go seek them. It is mainly anxiety, because actually, if you think about it, a lot of people who would come for smoking or weight loss, there is an anxiety issue behind that, whether there's some kind of emotional rationale that's going on behind it. The amount of anxiety and stress that people are storing at the moment is particularly high. COVID has played a big part in that, obviously. But the other side of it is that stress plays a huge role in the quality of people's lives. And when we can help them to manage that stress, then the quality of their lives improves. You know, I myself grew up with a very anxious mother. So I kind of know what it's like to live in an anxious household. I've had a few more anxious people in my life down through the years. I kind of know the feeling that is. And I think that's probably why I got more interested in anxiety than anything else. But anxiety is stress-driven anyway, as we know. So what stress does long-term is it breaks down the body, because as you're releasing all that cortisol and all those various chemicals into your body is starting to, medical science will tell you 90% of disease initiates with stress, just weakens the immune system. And then any other disease can come in on top of it. So that's why I'm so passionate about working with anxiety and anxiety-related disorders.
Okay. And of course, it's the world we live in, isn't it, at the minute, like especially over the last couple of years since COVID, people are under like a lot of pressure and stress and in terms of their businesses and what have you. You know, people are experiencing more stress and anxiety in many ways than ever before. Isn't that true?
That's absolutely true. It's a very fast-paced world that we live in, and we're just trying to do more and more. I mean, the technology that helps our lives also means that we try and achieve more within our day. Just adds to our stress levels on top of everything else. And you know, when you see people who are suffering from stress, some of that is just normal everyday stress, but a lot of it is childhood stress. It's trauma, for want of a better word. It's messaging that people picked up along the way, whatever words you want to put on it. But it really does hold them back. And it affects the quality of their lives. So my mission really is to empower people to live their best life. And I just think hypnotherapy happens to be the best tool with which to do that. You know, I mean, as hypnotherapists, you know, one of the things that no matter what training you've got, you know, people always learn things like magnetic hands and light arm, heavy arm and stuff. And what they do is, when I use it here, I literally would just say to somebody, this shows you the power of your mind, the power of a thought. That's it. And all that's actually stopping you from achieving is that one thought that you're holding on to. It may be that there's more beneath that, and we get to those, but it's the power of thought. You know, a thought that says, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not smart enough. You know, I was bullied as a child, so therefore I took a meaning from that. And I think the one thing that, and I really would love if authorities would work with educating people on the mind and the power of the mind, but also I'm not a gardener. I've never been much into gardening, but I love the analogy. I think I'm probably becoming one. I love the analogy of the mind is like a garden. That rubbish blows in, weeds grow, and no one ever teaches us how to clean that. But if it was your own garden, you'd pick up the rubbish, you tidy up the weeds, or you get someone in to do it. And things like emotional detox are absolutely perfect for that. And I know you use them, and so do I. It's perfect for just clearing the mind of some of the debris, and then starting to allow the more colorful and attractive flowers to grow, and ornaments we put in the garden, or whatever way you want to describe the rest of the metaphor. But yeah.
It really is a case, isn't it, where, you know, our minds and bodies are connected, and so many people out there don't realize that they're carrying a residue physically of that anxiety and stress, like a weight, like a burden. And that's where we come in, don't we? Like, we can help and provide the platform, so to speak, for people to release that and get rid of that and let it go, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like when people come in here, and if they're anxious, you know, I will often ask them, how do they know that they're anxious? And I get a confused look for a moment, and then they go, I'll normally feel it. And it's normally solar plex stuff that people feel that in. I go, all right, so which came first, the thought or the feeling? And they're kind of looking at me a bit, but it gives avenues into working with the body then, and just literally. And then, you know, I use a lot of the kinetic shift stuff for the emotional detox, always, in pretty much every session that I do. And it allows for that freedom to physically break the connection between body and mind. Because, you know, as the book, The Body Keeps the Score, reminds everybody, you know, it's not just all up here. It isn't all just in the head. It's also in the rest of the body. And it does allow that to happen. So yeah, it's a privilege to do this work, to be honest. When people walk out the door with a smile on their face and with a trauma released and a weight off their shoulders, it really is a privilege, as you will well know yourself, by seeing all those thank you notes behind it.
Yeah, it's a very rewarding role that we play.
Yeah.
There's a lot of job satisfaction. I personally get a lot of satisfaction. I know behind me here. I have a bunch of handwritten letters and cards that if the place went on fire tomorrow, they'd be the first things that I'd go for, because, you know, they make it really all worthwhile.
Yeah.
You know, and even I have up here on my wall kind of a painting that a client sent me in as a gift for helping them. And so it's really like people appreciate the help that we give them as well, don't they?
Yes, yeah, they do. They really do. It gives people just that freedom to live, and they really do appreciate that. And I suppose the more successful that we are, and the more that clients leave our offices happy, the more they're going to say it to other people, or other people will observe it in them, and then the more people that we'll be able to help.
Absolutely.
You know, and I mean, for me, I think there's always a number of different things as a therapist, and you know, as you mentioned, I set up the conference, but it's kind of like as a profession, it's important that we learn, and we, you know, all associations will have CPD in some shape or form, and particularly as you go through the field of you know, of neuroscience now, they're learning and learning and learning continuously. So there's always opportunities in which to develop new and more powerful techniques than we've had in the past. You know, I was trained in the regression to cause model of the world. I will do it, but I don't do it very often anymore because I don't need to. You know, so on one hand, there's all of this of that neuroscience has changed radically. So we learn more about how the mind works, how the brain works, and therefore how we can come up with new ways. And as you know, I was just at Hypnothought, so you're getting all kinds of new stuff, you know, new ways of thinking. It's kind of, you know, and that in itself was really fascinating. And then the other side of it is that letting other people know that, you know, we are in a position to help people, and then letting us as a group, because as we've always said, you know, working individually, which most of us do, it's a pretty lonely place. So by coming together, then we support each other, and we upskill each other all in the process, as you're more than well aware.
Absolutely. And that just brings us back nicely to the conference last May. And, you know, folks, what an amazing conference that was. Personally speaking, I approached that conference blind. I didn't look into it. I just said, right, I'm going to appear in the morning and just play it by ear, as the man said, and, you know, go with an open mind. And I was blown away by the caliber of the speakers, the presentations, the knowledge, you know, and the participants as well. Like everyone that attended the conference was there to, you know, to learn and to look into different ways that they can not only increase their skills, but even provide a better service than they're already providing, and to get the best out of themselves, even more out of themselves. I know, from personally speaking, for me, you know, I left the conference buzzing on the Sunday, and you know, and I still am. And how long ago is it now? It's a couple of months ago now, right? 2.5 months ago.
Or something, yeah.
So, and what a fantastic network as well, John, that you've triggered here and that you've created. You know, like there's been a great WhatsApp group, there's a Facebook page, there's Zooms, there's you know, motivational buddies. I know I have a shout out to Mary, who, you know, Mary's a wonderful lady, and I'm so happy to have found somebody to be able to help and to support me as well. And so, you know, it's a wonderful thing. It really is. Because that's the thing. I mean, like with a conference like you organize, the magic just happened that weekend, and it's it's priceless, really, and so can you give us some background on how you come up maybe with the idea to the conference,
Oh,
how
the idea
all that
was,
came about?
the idea, I suppose, was, I mean, I'm fascinated by the subject of hypnosis, not only the power of it, but to help people, but I'm just fascinated with the subject anyway. And so, I mean, I went to the UK conference in 19, I think, and then I went again in 22. I'd been at some training in London with Mike Mandel just before that, stayed for the first conference, got to meet a lot of people, and absolutely, when I went back then in 22, and all during COVID as well, there was all those connections that stayed. So things like Zoom weren't, I wasn't alien to those. I've been using them for even before COVID kicked in. So, but sitting there in London in last November going, why don't we have one of these in Ireland? Two people around me going, yeah, why don't you? Yeah, no one's, but so I came home. I happened to go to Linda Emmett, had run a conference with, or a training with Freddie in January in Dublin. And I asked Freddie and he said yes, and it was game on then. And then I asked Carl, he said yes, and then all the other speakers after that. So, but like, even if you tie it into the whole subject of stress and anxiety and doubt, because we all work on our own, we work in this little microcosm, and we all need that support structure, to help us relieve the stress that we're under, because we're all under stress too. We're just human beings. We may be able to handle it better than a lot of other people, but we still experience that stress. And also to help us to just empower ourselves by supporting, by doing the work with each other that we need to get done. So that's what the hope and aspiration was behind it all, to be honest, was to create that community. And year one, I think that's a definite. We just hope as we move forward into next year and beyond that it'll just become bigger and better.
And I'm sure it will be, because we have still a job to do as a collective. And what I've learned as well from the conference is that, personally speaking, I've been working here down in Waterford, hypnosis, for the last number of years, but it can be a little bit feel very isolated at times. And so the conference opened up so many new opportunities and new channels of communication to different therapists from all over Ireland and further afield. And when it comes to us as a collective, I feel, we still have a job to do in terms of informing the general public about how we can help and the services we provide, because in my experience, it may be not as bad as when I started out first, but there still is these misconceptions and incorrect perceptions that the average person has regarding hypnosis from the Hollywood movies and all the rest of it.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, but I mean, and I think I've said it to you, that also exists within hypnotherapy. Like, I spent a lot of time in Las Vegas with stage hypnotists. I was absolutely blown away. And I mean, obviously,
Sorry about that, folks. Not sure what happened there. We just got cut off, but we're back.
We're back.
I think you're in the middle of making a point about stage hypnosis.
Yeah, I'm up in the middle of the mountains here now, so my internet may occasionally be a bit ropey. So my apologies. Yeah, just on stage, I mean, there is this view that with clinical hypnotherapists, and I probably held it myself at one stage, that stage, affects negatively clinical. But spending time with hypnotherapists over there, you kind of realize there's 5 key skills that they have to have. Now, apply these to any clinical hypnotherapist. So rapport, awareness, so that you can observe the room and who's, who you want to work with. You have to be able to hypnotize. You have to be creative. We're always going to meet things that don't fit a particular model of the world. So creativity has to come in, and you have to have confidence. And if you talk to any of the great, what people would regard as the really, really good and famous hypnotherapists, the one thing they will all have is absolute and utter supreme confidence in themselves. So yeah, I think it's something we should all probably look at a little bit and maybe do just a little bit ourselves, because it just helps to build that confidence, that creativity, that rapport building.
When I trained, my training, I'm trained with the National Guild of Hypnotists, was very much, not directly, but indirectly kind of, to stay away from the stage hypnosis.
You're still there.
It's still there.
Just there, yeah.
Stay away from those guys. And then as part of your pre-talk, you kind of like, you poo-poo it a small bit, going, that's stage, that's entertainment, but what I'm doing here is therapy, and it's completely different. But now I actually have come round to your way of thinking the last couple of years.
It's really interesting, because one of the guys I met was from Holland, and he has a stage business, but he also has a clinical business.
Yeah.
And he said if his books get if it's going into a quieter period, he does a show, and in the middle of a show, he'll drop 3 or 4, here's the power of hypnosis, you can use it for X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And next thing, his phone is ringing the following morning or later that night. So, I mean, they're interlinked. And hypnosis, we use it in therapy in a different direction than stage hypnotists do, but it's the same hypnosis.
It's the same phenomenon.
Exactly.
The client asked me now, can you make me bark like a dog or look like a chicken? My answer is yes, but you need to pay me more money.
There you go. That's exactly the way to say it.
Yeah. Or the other one is, look, it's going to take another hour. Maybe we should just get down to what you're here for, the reason you're here for. No.
Yeah.
I'm embracing that myself, because, I totally, I'm in alignment with what you just said. It's definitely true.
Well, all of those skills are vital for all of us. So, we don't, and they need to be nourished, and they need to be, expanded. So,
Sure.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that all of the collectiveness, all this coming together will just help to, in WhatsApp groups and conferences, will just help to expand all of those, because the supports will build our confidence and all our various skills within us. And yeah, I'm looking forward to an exciting few years ahead.
Great stuff. And John, I'm going to have to bring the podcast to a conclusion here, because I'm just aware of the time. But just to finish it up, is there anything you'd like to add in terms of, if I was sitting here in front of you, somebody who knew nothing about hypnosis and was suffering from bad stress and anxiety, right? How can you help me? You got 60 seconds. Go ahead.
You've been forgetting things all your life. You've been learning things all your life, Trevor. So we will help you to learn all of those skills that you've always had and forget all of those worries and doubts that you have reminded yourself of. And we just take it from there. Yeah, just help you to remember how amazing you are as a person.
Yeah. Well said.
We need to add it to that.
Well said. John, it was fantastic having you on, and thanks a million for coming on the podcast.
No problem.
Really appreciate it. And folks,
thank you, Trevor. Hopefully you'll have me back on again, and I might even have a little bit of news for everybody, but just not right yet.
Well, there you go. Definitely. Anytime you want to come back on, let me know. You're more than welcome. And folks, I hope you've enjoyed the chat I've had with John here today. And thanks for bearing with me. I'm your host, Trevor Evers, and this is this is only the second episode of the podcast. And I just got going with Ken Falconer last week, and shout out to Ken. Thanks a million for your time and for kickstarting this podcast. So the whole idea was to just get it going, get the wheels going, and we'll just polish it up as we go along. And as you can see, even this week, look at this new fancy high-fangled equipment this week. This wasn't here last week, folks, see? So there you go. You can hear, at least you can hear me this week. But so over and out, and until next time I see you. This is the Power Within podcast. My name is Trevor Evers, and take care. Have a great weekend and have a great week, and we see you next time. Take care, folks.